Hi everyone, my name is David Rao and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Instagram, on Twitter, on my Facebook group, and on Pinterest, and a variety of other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter Music Education. I'm so excited to be sharing with you tonight. I'm back to sharing my full K through 5 lessons for the week, which I'm really excited about a lot of those lessons that I have to share with you. I'm going to share all of those kindergarten through 5th grade lessons, then I'm going to do a deep dive on my 2nd grade lessons this week. And just share some of the things that are happening in my room, show you some of the resources, the lesson plans, the extras and things that go along with it, and share some of the process as to why I teach those things in that order, in that way. So I'm going to get started here in just a minute. I just have a couple quick things I wanted to mention. If you have questions along the way, please leave questions here on the Facebook chat or on Instagram chat. A lot of times if I'm not able to see the question as I'm sharing about my lessons, a lot of other people will sometimes see those questions and will answer them before I can. If I don't answer them in the course of the video, I always go back and try and answer them later the best I can. I'm a lot better on Facebook with that than I am on Instagram. It's hard to be able to answer the questions because of the live format, but I always try. So if you do have questions, please ask. I'd be happy to answer those as the best I can. But also, if you have questions after the video ends, you can always go back and leave questions. Or if you join my Facebook group, which you can find by searching Every Moment Matters Music Education Community, you can join that group and ask questions in the weeks and months to come. If you're listening to this as a podcast, because I do take the feed and I turn it into a podcast, you can also join that Facebook group and ask questions there. Okay, and one more thing, whenever I do talk about links or books or anything else, I try and always put links to those things on one page on my blog, makemomentsmatter.org. Actually, in the Facebook video caption and in the Instagram on my LinkedIn profile, you can find the link to that. It's the Musical Mondays recap page, and it has all the links and books and everything I talk about. In case you want to get the resources that I'm using or just learn more about them, they're all linked there on that links page. Sometimes there are links to Amazon, sometimes to West Music, sometimes to my blog. There are just lots of different links and things that you can use if you're interested. Not that you have to buy from Amazon or West Music or whatever, but I try and give you those links so that you can at least see the resource and then go and buy it in lots of other places or get it from your library or find it in different spots. But I like having that links page, and that's there for you if you want. One more thing, and then I'm going to get started. If you are in Norfolk, Virginia, I'm going to be doing a workshop with the Tidewater Area ORF chapter, and it's going to be at Old Dominion University on October 19th. And it's 9 to 1. I'd love to see all of you there. If you're in the area, it'd be so great to get to meet some people. It's so funny when you meet like Instagram friends in real life or Facebook friends in real life. It's so nice to be able to meet people and to make those connections. Okay, but that's October 19th in Norfolk, Virginia at Old Dominion University. If you're there, I'd love to meet you and chat and talk about music education and have fun at an ORF chapter. ORF chapter's the best. Okay, let's talk about my lessons for the week. So, like I said, I'm going to run through all my kindergarten through 5th grade lessons. I'm actually going to omit 2nd grade because I'm going to come back and do a deep dive into 2nd grade. So I'm going to leave that out of the main run through and come back to that. But as I go, if you have questions, please feel free to ask those in the comments just wait. Somebody else might answer the same question. Who knows? But feel free to ask those questions. So I'm going to start with kindergarten. Kindergarten, we come in, we make a quick circle, and then in the last lesson I taught them the Copycat Game, and my friend Tabby came out. Tabby's a puppet, and Tabby again is just like the Dr. Watson to my Sherlock Holmes. Not that I'm comparing myself to Sherlock Holmes. I am not that smart, but the Dr. Watson character in Sherlock Holmes would always ask the silly questions or explain things for the audience that Sherlock would understand but that we wouldn't understand as readers. And so Tabby does that for me. So if I say like, do you remember the Copycat poem? And they go, no, I don't remember the Copycat poem. Oh, well, how about I say it? And Tabby, since you don't remember it, Tabby, I'm sure the kids remember it, but Tabby, since you don't remember it, how about I say it and you can echo? And maybe the kids can help you. And so I'll say, copycat, copycat, 1, 2, 3. Copycat, copycat, 1, 2, 3. And so then she gets to echo back and do the little copycat poem. Or other times, like when we're not going to copy, when I'm doing attendance, I would say, oh, Tabby, I'm so sorry you don't get to copy me anymore. Tabby, I'm so sorry you don't get to copy me anymore. No, you can't copy me. No, you can't copy me. Because now I'm going to be saying people's names. Because now I'm going to be saying people... Oh, like my name? Yeah, like your name. And so if I said, hello, Tabby, hello, Tabby, that wouldn't make much sense. You'd need to say, hello, and then my name. Hello, then my name. No, you say, hello, Mr. Rao. Hello, Mr. Rao. But I say... So I do that with kids. They think it's hilarious, but it also breaks down the process for them, and they understand it a little bit better. And then they're not the ones making the mistake. Tabby's the one making the mistake, and she doesn't mind making the mistake because she's a puppet. Okay, so we do our copycat. We have fun in the circle. In that copycat game, it's just the poem and then action and poem and action and poem action. So we do the poem, which I've shared about before. I think I've even shared a link to a version of that. But we do the poem, and then we'll do clapping, echo clapping, and then we'll do the poem, and then we'll do a vocal exploration where they echo me, and then we'll do the poem, and then we'll do patting on our knees, and then we'll do the poem, maybe do one other thing, we might do solfege or something else. And that's just my quick way to be able to hit some of those different objectives that even maybe I don't get to spend a lot of time on in the lesson, but I do get to spend a little bit of time at the beginning of class. We go over to my puppetry and the chair, and I tell them the story about the spider, that little tiny small spider. I actually do the Itsy-Bitsy Spider. I talk it out as a story before I ever sing the song, because it's like the second you sing the song, they're like, we did it, we're done, move on. And so I actually walk through the story. I tell them about my friend Sammy the spider and how she wanted to catch some food. And so when a spider's catching food, they put out those net things. What are those called? The sticky net things that spiders make. And web. Yeah, it's web. Or sometimes kids will say web. We talk about why they build them high, because they're catching flying creatures. And we talk about how Sammy was very smart and saw a great food catching spot way high up on the house and wanted to find a dry way to get up there, because she went, oh no, and noticed that it was getting dark and cloudy. And so she decided to find a nice dry spot to climb up. And so I'm sitting next to the wall in my classroom, and so she climbs up the wall and then notices it's going to get wet, and if it gets wet, she'll slip and fall. We go through that whole process. We talk about she chose the water spout, that tube on the side of the house, because she thought it'd be dry inside. Oh, but she didn't know that water spout was connected to the gutter. I go through all of that because I don't think that kids know what up the water spout, like I don't think that they know that vocabulary, and so why am I teaching this song if they don't understand what it means? So I talk about how, Sammy's going up this tube up the side of the house because she thinks it's going to be dry inside. She knows it's going to rain. Well, this tube she calls the spider highway. Well, she's going up the spider highway, but actually that tube is going to get really wet really quick. And the kids, so I explain what the tube is. It connects to the gutter, blah, blah, blah. And they get a little bit of foreshadowing, like, oh no. It's going to get really wet. So then it rains and it comes out, and she goes whoosh out the spout, and then the sun comes out and dries the rain. She gets to go again. And at this point, a lot of kids are like, wait, I know this song. There's a song coming. But it previews the whole story and gives them the context to the story before we ever get to the singing part. And so that makes it a little bit more contextual. I actually have a favorite folk song set. I don't use the whole thing with them, but I use just selected slides because it has pictures of a downspout on the side of a house. And so I show students that to give them that visual. And they can go, oh yeah, I've seen that on my house, or I've seen that at my grandma's house, or whatever. And so giving them that visual I think is really important. But I use Sammy the spider as a silly little puppet. I don't even know where this came from. I think I got it from another teacher. And it actually is called Sammy Spider. If I check the tag. It is not Folk Manus. There's a Folk Manus puppet I would love to get, but that's on my list. I can't quite make out the brand. Carbon, I think. Catherine Janice Kahn. I'll look that up and try and find that for you later. But I use the puppet. It helps me teach the story. Then we scoot over to another part of the room, and I show them. I've got these little fences. Now I showed this last year. I showed this part of the lesson. But when I'm teaching 5 Little Pumpkins sitting on a gate, I pull these out, and this is just like garden edging, like flower bed edging, and you could see where it was actually spiked in the ground. I actually stole this. Well, not really. My neighbor re-landscaped their yard, and this was out at the recycle bin. So one night when I was walking my dogs, I just took it with me because it's perfectly fine, and it works really great as a visual. And so you could go to like Home Depot and probably buy it on sale right now, or you could ask people, are you re-landscaping your lawn, and ask if you can have their old stuff. But the cool thing about it is I can use it as a visual. I can talk about a fence. I could talk about where the fence opens. That's the gate. We can show the gate opens in different ways. And that leads to the 5 little pumpkins who are sitting on that gate. And so I have these foam die cuts from years ago that I bought at Target, I think. And they come, and the cool thing about this gate is that they fit right in, because between the little spike and the loop, they can sit right there. So I put 5 of them on, and then I teach them what they say. And I say, there are these 5 little pumpkins sitting on this gate. And again, I sort of teach it as a story before I teach it as a poem. And I go through what each one says. The first one, they were going to go trick-or-treating. They were very excited. But the first one was afraid they were going to miss it. And he goes, oh my, it's getting late. We need to go get ready. Come on, we need to get ready. Oh my, it's getting late. And then I have them, point to their watches and go, oh my, it's getting late. And the second one saw something fly overhead, and he went, oh, there are witches in the air. And actually what he saw, because I have one, I have a little finger puppet of a bat. And so my little bat comes out and says, I am not a witch, but when I was flying through, the pumpkin didn't see who I was, and so he thought I was a witch. And so the bat comes out, just because I don't want kids to be like, oh my gosh, there are actually witches in the air. Mr. Rao confirmed it in his poem. So I say like, oh, the pumpkin saw the wrong thing. It was actually a bat flying over, but he was a little bit nervous, and the bat went very fast. So he didn't see that it was actually a bat, and so then the bat flies through. But the second one says, there are witches in the air. The third one said, even if there are, I'm not scared. I don't care. The third one said, but we don't care. And so I go through and we teach the whole thing. The fourth one had too much candy already, and he went to run and run and run. And the fifth one was just cool, already had his costume on. He said, I'm ready for some fun. And so then we teach the story, we go through and we get to do it. On the first day we do this, I teach this early on in the month. The first day we do this, I do all the parts, and the first time I have there was candy in this. This was one of those, like, you get, like, it's filled with, like, M&Ms or whatever. And I was like, I don't know, I can keep this, because apparently I have, my mom was an art teacher, and so, like, she instilled in me this sense of, like, you could use that for a project, so never throw anything away. So I have, like, boxes full of stuff. Anyway, I kept this, and this is my little made-up microphone. So I can say, like, if I put the microphone in, up to you, you get to say it by yourself as a solo. I wonder if people remember what each one said. The first one said, and I hold it down, they go, oh my, it's getting late. Now, in the next lesson, the next time I see them, I actually have an actual microphone that's hooked up to my speaker system. So they're going to get to actually say it and hear themselves through the speaker system. It's a super powerful thing and a really cool part of the lesson, but this is my preview, and this is the safe, it's not connected to anything, it's just silly microphone. I use it for a couple different things during October month, but it's fun for them, and they get to say, oh my, it's getting late. So this is your excuse to go out and buy a little Halloween themed M&M, whatever this is called, for yourself. And I just took the top, and I just took some blue tape and looped around. I should tape all the rest so they don't know that it's actually a candy thing, but I will do that tomorrow. But anyway, it's a little microphone that we'll use. So I teach 5 little pumpkins. It's super fun. I make a quick connection saying, what voice did we use when we were doing 5 little pumpkins? It was speaking voice. We have to talk through what that is. A lot of times I'll say singing voice, because when you use sort of a musical rhythmic speaking voice, the first one said, oh my, it's getting late. They say, like, that's singing voice. And then I actually demo it in sing voice. The first one said, oh my, it's getting late. Oh, but that sounded different. And so it's a good chance to go back and talk through singing voice versus speaking voice, just to give them examples. And then they go, oh yeah, that is speaking voice. But I say, oh, I have a really good friend who loves to use her singing voice, and her name is Giselle. And I give them a little lead in, and then I show them part of Enchanted. there's a video, part of Enchanted, where she sings. It's one of my favorite songs from the movie, and she sings this song called "That's How You Know." That's how you know he loves you. But it's a really fun song. And I actually wrote an entire blog post about it. I think I can pull it up here. So I did a whole blog post about this called, ooh, I don't know if you can really see that. Sorry, Instagram. Sorry, Facebook. I don't know if you can, ooh, there we go. So a whole blog post about it. If you want, it's on my blog, Film Friday, Singing Voice Through Enchanted. And so it talks about how I sort of teach this lesson in the video. And there's a link to the video on YouTube that I don't know if will stay up because I don't think you can just put up the video. But let's see if it'll pull up.
Oh, no. How does she know? People looking.
Now I think you could use any Disney video and it would basically be like, oh, they're singing it instead of speaking it. But what I love about this is that the character she's playing off of is like, don't sing, just talk, don't sing. And he actually says that.
It's okay, let's just walk. Can we walk? Okay.
And he says, don't sing, don't sing. And then she does sing, and then other people get inspired to sing too.
He knows the song too?
Anyway, it turns into this huge song where, old folks and brides and grooms and whoever, they all get excited and involved and they all sing along, of course.
I really don't sing.
What's really great is then there's a chance for them to see a shouting voice because James Marsden comes in. And so he shouts, but the cool thing is that they get to see it come to life. They love the video like that. They love to see a video. You could probably find it on YouTube. There's that link on my blog. The DVD of it is like just $6 on Amazon. You could probably find it just as cheap anywhere else. It's nice to have the high quality video that's not going to die on you if the internet doesn't work. So it's worth buying the DVD if you have a chance to do that. One thing that I then go back and follow up, if I have time, is that I highlight this moment where they're out on the lake and there's a mariachi band. And they get to hear, let's see, there's a little part where you get to hear it. And they wave their little sombreros and they get to play, which is fun. And then that's a great lead-in for the last thing I do for the day is this book, The Best Mariachi in the World, which is a great book for Hispanic Heritage Month, but just happens to tie in because in this book, Gustavo wants to be in the mariachi band, his family band, and he can't play. He's just not good. He's too little. He wants to play, but he can't. He tries playing different things, and they say, this is not for you, this is not for you, this is not for you. And then what he does is he ends up singing, and he does it on his own. He's a little bit timid at first. He sings before anyone else wakes up. He just goes out into the desert and sings his songs, and then people wake up and hear him, and they say he's so amazing. And he does get to join the mariachi band, and he gets to join it as a singer. Let me see if I can pull that up. But the connection in the Enchanted video is just perfect because they get to see real life, but they get to see actual mariachi players with instruments, and then we get to read this book, and it's just a beautiful sort of natural connection. I wanted a reason to read this book, and that's a great reason because we get to then talk about singing voice and how even though Gustavo couldn't play the instrument, he got to be a part of the group because he was a singer. And so that's a fun little connection we get to make. And that's kindergarten. All that happens in 45 minutes. It's a lot, but it's a super, super fun lesson. First grade, they come in and we do our circle stuff. I'm going to talk about drums in a minute, so I'm going to sort of skip that circle drum thing because the same thing sort of happens in first and second grade. We do the Grizzly Bear song, which we learned in the previous lesson, and Grizzly comes out. Grizzly Bear, oh Grizzly Bear, was sleeping in a cave. Please be very quiet, very, very quiet. If you wake him, if you shake him, he'll get very mad. And they learned that in the last lesson, which is actually perfect because we're doing testing on my hallway. And so I say, when you're in the hallway, Please be very quiet. Or they are busy testing. Please be very quiet. If you disturb them, if you're loud, the teacher will get very mad. I don't know. We do a silly little thing about that. But the Grizzly Bear game then is a game you can either do like a Duck Duck Goose game. There's a fun chase game that you can find. There are a ton of different versions and blog posts about this, but there's a fun little chase game you can do, and we do that sort of fun little chase game to start. And part of the chase game is that the grizzly comes out of the cave. We're standing in a circle holding hands. He comes out of the cave. He goes under an archway. Or we're holding hands, and you're going to make a little archway. He comes out of an archway, and then he runs around the circle. But he's being chased by... you could say a hunter. I say a zookeeper. There's a zookeeper trying to get a bear for the new zoo exhibit, and he's chasing Grizzly around the circle. And Grizzly has to get around the circle and back through the doorway before he's caught by the zookeeper. Which is a perfect lead-in to the book that we're about to read, because we sing about Grizzly Bear. We do the game maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times, and then we move over to my green chair where this book is waiting for us. Polar bear, what do you hear? Now, most of these kids will know brown bear, what do you see? They will have read that in their classroom or at home. Polar bear, what do you hear? We get to first make a connection and say, oh, the polar bear is different than the grizzly bear. And it looks different. It's a different kind of bear. Okay, well, this bear, we're going to ask what that bear hears. Maybe he was awoken by something. Let's find out. And I talk about Eric Carle, and I say, you probably know another book by Eric Carle. Just The Hungry Caterpillar or Brown Bear. It's nice for them to know that the book we're about to read is by another author that they know, because then they can start making connections with, one person wrote multiple books, and they can make that connection of what an author is. So this lesson idea I got from my friend Andrew Ellingson. It's such a fun idea, and he was the first person who I saw do this. I'm not sure if he got it from a workshop or something, but it's a very fun lesson. But you see the polar bear, and you get to go, polar bear, what do you hear? And the polar bear goes, I hear a lion roaring in my ear. And then you get to ask the lion, lion, what do you hear? I hear a hippo snorting in my ear. And I get a chance to say hippo. Usually hippopotamus is the long name, but sometimes we say hippo instead. The book actually says hippopotamus, but I think it sings a little better as hippo. Hippo, what do you hear? I hear a flamingo fluting in my ear. And then, so the idea is you ask the animal what they hear, and the animal tells you, and then that animal shows up on the next page. By about the point you get to the flamingo or the zebra, the kids sort of understand the pattern, and I get to say, can you help me? Because the asking the question is the same every time. And if you know the zebra comes next, you're going to sing, zebra, what do you hear? So I give them a chance to sing the question, and I'll tell them what the animal hears. The kids want to do like, I hear a, but they don't know what comes next. So I say, let me sing the part of the animal and let them tell you what they hear, but you can ask them. So they go through, and we keep going through. Another one that I simplify is, instead of saying boa constrictor, I just do boa, and I say to kids, boa constrictor is its long name, but you can call it a boa instead. But about the time we get to the elephant, I start saying, like, where in the world are all of these animals that, a polar bear living in the same place as a lion, living in the same place as a flamingo, same place as an elephant, and then a leopard? What? I don't... But then the kids are, like, curious. When we get to the walrus, I do, a walrus? Walruses do not live in the same place as a peacock. This is so silly. I sure hope this walrus has answers. And then the walrus goes, walrus, what do you hear? And he says, I hear a zookeeper whistling in my ear. So then the zookeeper, what does he hear? He hears children. And this is fun because the children are all dressed up like the animals that are in the zoo. And I say, oh my gosh, that's so much fun. Your children, maybe you can do the animal parts again. And we go through, we do it one more time so they sort of understand the full form. We sing the whole thing through, and then the second time, it takes a minute. The second time through I say, children dressed up as animals. This one's dressed as, and they say a polar bear. This one's dressed as a lion. This one's dressed, and this is really critical thinking because they're taking what we did in the book. They're under the animals that hopefully they're understanding by sight, because this is sort of expanding their vocabulary, knowing what all of these animals are. Many of them will know many of them, but some of our kids won't. I mean, peacock, that's a little more specialized. And so then the transfer of knowledge is what they've already sung, what they've already learned, and then making that connection between a costumed child that is made to look like that animal. And so we go through and say, this one's dressed as... a bird. Which bird? Yeah, flamingo. It doesn't look exactly like it, but it's pretty close. And this one is a boa, but it doesn't look exactly like it because a boa constrictor doesn't really have hands and feet. But that's the best a kid could probably do to make themselves look like a boa without just laying on the ground. And I think it's important to have that 30-second conversation about which one is this, because it really is helping them make connections and helping them sort of understand those connections. And then I say, why are these kids dressed up? Why are they dressed up like the animals? And someone says, maybe it's a special night at the zoo. Yeah, maybe. What else could it be? And then we go through, and then they start to realize, and I think, is there a special reason for now in October that maybe they would be dressing up like animals? And they make a connection like, maybe they're Halloween costumes. Yeah, maybe they are Halloween costumes. To get ready for Halloween, people do all sorts of stuff. And that leads to the next part of our lesson. We go over and we watch this short little video clip from... Charlie Brown and the Great Pumpkin, or I don't remember what the Halloween one is, but there's a short little clip that's about a minute long of Linus and Lucy going to the pumpkin patch to pick out a pumpkin, and so Linus is like just so happy, and Lucy's like, I want the biggest pumpkin you can get. And so without saying anything, she non-verbally goes, not that one, no, and then he picks up this like huge one, is like, ugh. And she goes, that's the one. That's the one. And then they take it back home, and she starts making a jack-o'-lantern. The whole video takes maybe 2 minutes, but it really sets up this last song and is sort of connected material. But kids also just love it because they love the Peanuts characters, and it does really give them a connection. Because then we once the video's over, I sort of take them back and go, hey, when they're in the pumpkin patch, see those little squiggly things? Yeah, that's because in a pumpkin patch. Well, when we talked about the peanut and jelly song a few weeks ago, we decided that peanuts, they don't grow on a tree, they don't grow on a bush, they don't grow above ground. Where do they grow? Oh, they grow underground, right. Well, guess what? Pumpkins grow on this special thing called a vine, and it's this sort of snaky thing that looks sort of squiggly like on the video here, and the vine connects all of the pumpkins. And so when you want a pumpkin, you have to cut it off of the vine and take it with you. That's why they have that little stump part. And again, this is giving kids context. It's giving them a little bit of a background to pumpkins, because kids a lot of times can recognize a pumpkin, but they don't know how it grows, especially my kids in the city. They don't know how it grows or what it looks like a lot of the time. So it gives a little bit of a connection, a background. So we talk about the pumpkin, where you get it, all of that, and they can sort of see that in the video. They see Linus carrying this huge pumpkin back because Lucy was like, not the little one, not the little one, and it's got to be the big one. So they get back and they start carving it up. Well, that leads to my next song, which goes, the pumpkin on the vine, the pumpkin on the vine, I picked the one that weighed a ton, that's the one that's mine. And I get to sing that through with a little bit with them. And play along with the song. I did a whole blog post about this song. It's a super old song that I learned in elementary school. I added a B section to it, and so I use this song to play around a little bit with form. And again, I come back to my foam pumpkins that I bought years and years and years ago, right? And so these actually have magnets on the back, and they're stuck to the whiteboard, and they're connected by this long green piece of yarn. And I say, that's not a piece of yarn, what is it? And they go, it's a vine, right? And so to hook onto that vine, I have other little pumpkins. I actually have 3 little pumpkins, and they hook onto that vine. And in the next lesson, what we do is the first part of the song, the pumpkin on the vine, the pumpkin on the vine, is the first part of the song, and we call that part A. And that hooks onto the vine. And I say, I have another part that sounds, well, you get to decide what it sounds like. The pumpkin on the vine, the pumpkin on the vine. They go, that sounds like the exact same thing. You're right, because the new part is called A. They're both called A, we have an A and an A. Great. And you know what? I have another part to the song. If it sounds like the pumpkin on the vine, the pumpkin on the vine, what are we going to have to call it? It's another A. Oh my goodness, 3 A's. But if it's different, what should we call it? If it sounds different, what should we call it? Yeah, a B. And it is a B. And so we added the B section. That's all in the blog post that I shared about already, but I wanted to just give you a really quick preview since I have the pumpkins with me. But what we do in today's lesson is we do just the A section of the song, give it a little bit of context. The Linus and Lucy video is perfect because she picks this huge pumpkin that Linus has to try and carry back, and that's the words of the song. I picked the one that weighed a ton, that's the one that's mine. And so we get to do that as sort of a prelude in this lesson. And that is the end of first grade. Second grade I'm going to skip because I'm coming back to do a deeper dive on that. Third grade, we're still getting ready for our family folk dance night, which I'm really excited about. In this lesson, we take Old Brass Wagon that we've been working on for the last couple weeks. At this point, we know 5 verses. We know circle to the left, Old Brass Wagon, circle to the right, Old Brass Wagon, in and out, Old Brass Wagon, swing your partner, Old Brass Wagon, and do-si-do, Old Brass Wagon. And so in this lesson, we learned promenade, Old Brass Wagon. We actually take a few minutes and go through the ones we already know first, and then I say, I've got one more to add, and it's promenade, Old Brass Wagon. In the last lesson, we learned Sasha. It was sort of a mess in the last lesson because it was the first time we did it, so I give them a chance to practice it, to go through, to try it again. It works a lot more smoothly in this lesson because I talk about how you find partners and how you do the transition, and usually the part that goes Sasha, Sasha, raz, dva, tri. That's easy for them. That part's easy. It's the B section, the polka music, where they have to move around and then find a new partner. That's always tricky. Not because they can't move around, but because the logistics of finding and choosing a partner is tricky. And so we talk about how to find a partner. In this lesson, I always make sure to say, if you don't have a partner, by the time we get to Sasha, you need to raise your hand high and look for someone else whose hand is also up. Because if you're standing there like this, no one's going to see your hand. Or if you're standing there like this and looking down, you're not going to see that someone across from you also needs a partner. So raise your hand and look for someone else who has their hand up and go be that person's partner. And so we just talk through that so that they get that idea of making that next step of finding the partner. That's the trickiest thing about Sasha right now, and so we spend some time doing that. The last part of our lesson, we learn a song called Los Machetes, which is a famous folk dance from Mexico. There are like 100 different versions of this, and I found like 3 or 4 blog posts by different bloggers about what you can do with the song, different things you can do with rhythm sticks, you can do with just dancing, you can do with partners or not. I mean, there are a lot of different things you can do. So you choose the one that works best for you. I saw this in a workshop by Sana Longden a couple years ago, who is completely fabulous and wonderful. And she does this really fun routine with rhythm sticks. And so that's the version I do. I'm not going to share it because it's not my material, but I did put a link on the blog, the recap page to, she has a DVD that has a lot of the things that she teaches, and this one is all about Mexican folk dances and something else. But there's a full DVD of her teaching and her giving these lesson ideas, and it is so worth your money. And so I just put a link to that, and I'm not going to share the full lesson here because it's her material that I use, and I'm so thankful I went to that workshop to learn it. I see someone says, what age do you begin Sasha? I usually wait until older grades, honestly. I know people who do it kinder, first, and second, and for me it's just too tricky because of the partner stuff, because of the interpersonal stuff. And so I just don't use it earlier. 3rd grade is, I think, the youngest that I've used it. But you can use however you feel your kids will handle it. I see my kids about 20 times a year. That's once every 7 school days. So I just don't see kids enough to do more advanced things. And I do things now that I think are like, if I were at a different school, I could probably do this with a younger grade. But because I am at the school I'm at and have the situation I do, I have to simplify a little bit. Okay, but that's 3rd grade. So in again, just 3 dances. I'm still figuring out how I'm going to have enough sticks for us to do this for Family Folk Dance Night. I'm going to have to borrow from some of the teachers in my school district, but it's going to be super fun to see these circles walking around and doing the stick clicking and stick dancing and stick stuff. We are not going to use the traditional machetes for our dance. Fourth grade, we are starting Christmas music. I'm actually probably a little bit late to start Christmas music. I probably should have started it in the previous rotation. I'll just tell you a little bit about what I'm doing this year and how I'm going to try and make it work. I see a quick question here. Is there a theme to these lives, or can we ask questions? If so, what are your favorite ways to use puppets? I'm just running through, the theme, I guess, is that I'm running through my lessons for the week. Every week I share all my kindergarten through 5th grade lessons for the week, and then I do a deep dive into one grade. So I'm now on grade 4, and I've done K through 4 to this point, but I'm going to do a deeper dive into 2nd grade. You can ask questions. I'll try and get to them later if I can, or in another video. Okay, so I am doing a program this year called December Around the World. This is a John Jacobson and Roger Emerson magical, fantastic thing that they do. John Jacobson has done a ton of, easy kid musicals that are not really like musicals in the sense like Annie Jr., but they're like really a little bit more grade appropriate and have different content, but do have like sort of a show feel and lines in between, stuff like that. December Around the World I did once before at my very first teaching job, my very first gig. Now I decided to bring it back because I wanted to, I like the form of the musical, and I wanted to give kids a chance to learn things from around the world, be a little bit more multicultural, learning a little bit more about those traditions as we move into a time where in my part of the world in Georgia, it's mostly just Christmas. And so to give them a few other views is sort of cool. But what I'm doing in this musical is there's like an opening number and there's a closing number that everybody does. And then in between are smaller numbers that will be assigned to just one class or maybe 2 classes to learn and to do. And so what's nice is that the opening and the closing are just sort of general about around the world, about multicultural, about all the different holidays that we have in December. And then each of the middle songs, there's one about Hanukkah, there's one about Kwanzaa, there's one about St. Nicholas Day, there's one about Las Posadas, there's one about Chinese New Year, even though it's not actually in December, but I think they were just trying to fit it in. And actually this musical has my very favorite Hanukkah song, and my favorite Kwanzaa song. I don't often find that the songs about Kwanzaa feel like you're getting a lot out of them. And what I love about this one is the music is really fun. It talks about the pillars of Kwanzaa and gives a little bit of perspective without trying to feel like it's appropriating from another culture. So it's sort of just a cool version. But the very first song, December Around the World, it has a very simple verse and a very simple chorus. And then it takes that chorus, and the kids get to sing the chorus in German and in Spanish and in Swahili and in Japanese, and then again in English. So it's super fun. And again, the cool thing about these musicals is that they're built in a way that you're giving kids really good music instruction as you're teaching them a musical. So like there's always usually a partner song, there's chances for harmony, a lot of time there's canonic imitation. So it's a lot of those things that you would be teaching in 4th grade anyway, and it gives them examples of that as you teach. And if you take those 2 minutes as you're teaching the musical to say, wait a minute, this sounds like canonic imitation, or hold on, is this a partner song? It's fun because kids then are like, oh my gosh, actual real life application of that concept. Yeah. And so the musicals are really built for the grade level, I feel like, more than like a Lion King Jr. or something would be. Okay. I've done a whole blog post about, it's called like Holiday Musical Roundup or something, and I linked that on the links page, but it has 4 or 5 different holiday musicals you might consider if you are still stumped and don't know really what to do. And so this one is a good one. I like it. Again, you do what you think is right and you pull out things if you need to, but I think it's a super fun one. I see a couple questions. Do you select students to read the parts in between audition or ask classroom teachers who'd be the best bet? Yes, all of those. We have an audition where anybody who's interested shows interest and comes up and reads in front of the class. That's basically our audition. I take those student names and then I go to the teacher and say, who should not do a speaking, like who doesn't turn in homework, who doesn't go home and do the work. And then they can give me a little bit of a perspective on, will this kid actually go home and learn it or not? Will they show up for the show or not? And so I do get the parents, or I do get the teacher's advice. Ultimately, I make the choice of who gets to say the part. But having an audition in class gives kids a chance to say like, I don't want a part. Or like, I do want a part. And then they stand up in front of their peers and speak. And then I take those names and go with that. Since you see your students only 20 times, it must be different. Yeah. It's sort of tricky. So for this cycle, for the musical cycle, as we're getting ready for the holiday musical, I see them maybe six times, maybe less. But the nice thing is I can take the songs and I can give them, I can put the songs on our learning management system. So we use Canvas, which is a closed system. It can't be accessed from anyone who doesn't have a password. It only is accessed by the students who are actually in the course. So in my 4th grade class, I can record myself singing this. I can put it up with translations or pronunciation guides, all sorts of stuff. I can make little videos and put them on there, and kids can access them at home and learn some of that stuff as we go. Is your Christmas program only for 4th grade, or do you have them sing around the tree thing too? I'm not sure what a sing around the tree. You mean like maybe you mean like a entire school sing-along? We do have that, but that is not like an evening performance. This is like their grade level performance. And we also do an all-school sing-along where everybody gets a little bit involved. Do you have any good scripts for Veterans Day? Nope, I've never done a Veterans Day program. Sorry. I would do a search online or ask in a Facebook group for people who have. I have never done a Veterans Day program. And I'm using the December of the World musical with my 5th graders this year. I'm soaking up all your tips. Cool. It's a really great musical. I've done several blog posts about this actually, including like the bulletin board I use to advertise for it, with some fun little clip art and multicultural kids. So if you're interested, there's more about this on my blog. Okay, and 5th grade, I'm going to do a quick run through 5th grade. If you have more December around the world questions, please ask, and I'll try and answer those best I can. And then 5th grade, they come in. We actually are doing rhythm reading, which I'm so excited. So my 5th graders, they're learning 8th and 16th note combinations. So we go to the note neighborhood, and I never knew how to teach 8th, 16th combinations. So what I did with the note neighborhood is they're playing double dutch, and as they're jumping and playing double dutch, one person's in there. Oh my gosh, they're doing so good. Their jumping is so great. Oh no. Oh wait, no, they're sorry. Now they're doing so great. Oh wow, they're doing so great. Oh no. Oh no. And then they get caught up. And so then that helps. Now they're tied up in a little pair. I use Takadimi. There's another version of the Note Neighborhood that does ta and tika tika and tt. And so when we do this, it sort of helps kids figure out like where those sounds go. Because if you're using Takadimi, an 8th note plus 16th is ta, di, mi, ta, di, mi, ta, di, mi, ta. Or if it's the other way, if it's the other way, it's takadi, 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 ta. So I use the Note Neighborhood stories to help sort of explain it a little bit more. And that is, I think, the best way that I've been able to teach this, because then they actually sort of understand, going through that story and seeing them and trying them in a different way, that really helps them sort of cement in like, oh, that's how I say it. Oh, okay, and then they get it a little bit better. So it's a quick and easy way to do it. But I use the Note Neighborhood for a lot of tricky concepts like that. And for some reason, the story or maybe the characters helps kids make a little bit of a nice connection, and then they just remember it better. So that's linked in the video notes too, if you're interested. But that's a tricky concept for us. We don't get to it in 4th grade just because I see them for such a limited time. So we get to it here in 5th grade. And then I do a fun song called Tidy-O with my kids partially pulled from this book, which I know I've shared before, as American's Apple Pie by Jeff Krisky and Randy DeLellis. Partially pulled from my Orff Level 1 notes. It's sort of a conglomeration of all of that, but it's a really easy song. Another one that there are probably 40 different versions that you could use if you wanted, but I do a little bit of a mix of what's in here, which is really, really great, and from my Orff level, because it has a great application for playing the Orff instruments as you sing. Whew. Okay, that's kindergarten through 5th grade. I'm going to come back to any other questions that people have about that if we have time here at the end. But I want to spend just a little bit of time on 2nd grade. So 2nd grade, where we come in, we do our little copycat game. I hand out hand drums, and so we first start by clapping and echoing and vocal exploration and echoing, and then we check in just like I talked about earlier with my 1st grade or kindergarten, where I say hello, your name, and they say hello, Mr. Rao, and hello, your name, hello, Mr. Rao, and then we sing hello, Braden, hello, Mr. Rao, and they get to sing back. It's a fun little way for them to sing a solo, and for me to do a little bit of a, are they matching pitch? Quick check as we go. And then I hand out hand drums to every other kid, so that when I play, I'll play, they echo. If you don't have a hand drum, you use your hand and just clap. But if you do have a hand drum, you get to play back. And I have sets of hand drums. I have about 15, all in different sizes. I hand them out to every other kid, and then after a few examples with the hand drums, I say, hold your hand drum with both hands and pass it to your left. And of course, since they're sitting in a circle, I have to walk around and show them what way is their left. But then it means that the next kid who didn't have a hand drum gets to try it next. So what I do is I do about 4 times through. So the kid who first gets the hand drum, and then the next kid. So then that means everyone's had the hand drum at least once. Then I do one more rotation so that the kid who first had a hand drum has a different hand drum, a different size. And then we do one more rotation, and then we put away. I've done a whole blog post about how I do that and why I do that, and the procedure and everything behind it. So if you're interested in that full procedure, I did it's a 20-minute video all about just that, and with explanation and breakdown, and I linked that on the video page. But that's sort of my intro, and it takes maybe 5 minutes to do that whole thing, but it gives the kids a chance to play a hand drum, to rotate, to switch. It gives them a reminder about how to clap musically and not just clap like a football game, like they're clapping nice, because that translates to hand drum. So it gives kids a chance to remember a lot of things, and it's just a quick hand drum fun thing that we get to do. They did the song 7 Jumps in the last lesson. So once we put hand drums away, we spread out to a good personal space. We sort of walk through how the 7 Jumps works, and then we try it. And I talked about this in the last video, so I'm not going to run into how the 7 Jumps works if you've not done it. But you can go back and watch that previous video. But the fun thing about it is they know it now, so they're excited to do it. And it is just sort of a quick rehash of how it works because they have done it before. And then we get to one of my favorite parts. I put this image up for the kids to see, and it's just an image of It's an image of a boat on a river, because we're going to do the song Down the River. And if you don't know Down the River, I'll sing it to you in just a second. But I talk about how, we're going to go out on a boat, and we get to have a little fun on a river. And when you're going on a river, you can either go down the river or up the river. And if you're going with the water, because the water in a river flows one direction. It's going one direction. And if you're flowing down with the water, you're going down the river. Or if you're going against the water, you're going up the river. And I walk through the room and sort of mimic how that would look, just because kids, to give them a sense of how that visualization works. First, they're thinking, how does a river work? and then they're thinking about boats, and many of my kids have never had experience in a boat, or if they have, it's in a lake or, Destin, Florida, or whatever. So giving them a little bit of context about the river is good. We talk about how the boat, if it were in really shallow water, it would scratch the bottom of the river, and so it's so good that the river we're in is very deep. The channel underneath the boat is really deep, and the water is high. The river is high, meaning there's lots of water that we can take our boat down. And then I talked just a little bit about what river this is. I pull down my classroom map. I have a little picture here that is not my exact map, but my classroom map is one of those like Rand McNally, whatever, the big classroom version. So this is not exactly right, but I'll see if I can zoom in here. Mine is like every state is colorful and it's all different. And but what I say is, you know, it's easy to spot water on a map because water is always blue. And so these oceans or the Gulf, that's all blue. Or the lakes, the Great Lakes, those are blue. Let's see, oh, and these little squiggly blue things, what are those? And then they make the connection that those are the rivers. And I say, yes, and there's some really nice big rivers. There's this really huge river called the Mississippi River. Oh my goodness, that's such a big river. And then I point out some other little rivers that they might know the names of. And then I say the river we're going to sing about today is the Ohio River. And I get to find, on my map, it's a lot easier to find than one in my room, but I get to show like, okay, well actually, the Ohio River starts here in Pennsylvania. It goes up and down. And this is my chance to make sort of a social studies history connection. And I can say that, you know, if you follow the squiggly blue line, that's the edge of the river. But sometimes, and again, my classroom, each state is a different color, so they can see a little better, that the river meets the edge of the state. And so some of the states have squiggly lines, and sometimes that's because they are marked by a river. And so I can show that. Well, that's just a little bit of a connection for kids. Again, I think it's so important to give kids context about what we're singing. And so I show them the Ohio River. I show how it meets up with the Mississippi, how far it goes. And then that leads us into singing about the song. It also gives them context. It helps them make real world connections. Because these folk songs that we sing didn't just come out of nowhere. They didn't just make them up for no reason. They made them up based around a thing or a place or a story. And so giving kids that story again, I think is so valuable. So the song is super fun though. It goes like this. The river is up, the channel is deep, the wind is steady and strong. Oh, won't we have a jolly good time as we go sailing along? Down the river, oh down the river, oh down the river we go. Down the river, oh down the river, oh down the Ohio. And so with the first time I sing it for kids, I actually change one of the words. I go, the river is up, the channel is deep, the wind is steady and strong. Oh, won't we have a very good time as we go sailing along? The actual word is I say this first part is so easy because remember we talked about if our boat's going to actually make it through the river, it needs to have a nice deep channel underneath. The water needs to be high. And then it says, the river is up, the channel is deep, the wind is steady and strong. Why is it good that the wind is strong? And then I click back to that picture and they go, oh, right, we're in a sailboat and we need the wind to push us, so it's good that the wind is strong. And it gives them, you know, again, context to why the song is the song, why we do it this way. The river is up, the channel is deep, the wind is steady and strong. Oh, won't we have a very good time as we go sailing along? And so then once they learn that, then I say, you know what, I think that I did one of the words wrong. I think it's actually, oh, won't we have a jolly good time. That's what it says. Jolly just means happy. Have you heard people use that word jolly before? And usually I get the Santa reference that, oh, Santa is jolly. But I had a student who goes, yeah, the Jolly Pirates. And I was like, oh, that fits right in with this song because we're in a boat, right? And the Jolly Roger. Okay, anyway, so I make that connection with the jolly and then we change the word. Oh, won't we have a jolly good time as we go sailing along? Down the river, oh down the river, oh down the river we go. Down the river, oh down the river, oh down the Ohio. Down the Ohio State? And they're like, no, the Ohio River. Oh, right, the Ohio River, right. Because Ohio River and Ohio State both have the same name, but they're different, right? They're different. And for my kids who live in Georgia, that's a good distinction to learn, that they're different. The Mississippi River touches other states other than just Mississippi. So it's fun for kids to make that connection. And I also like to show, when I'm first showing them the map, I'm like, I don't know why, but the Ohio River doesn't start in Ohio. It starts in Pennsylvania. I guess I'll have to figure out, if you know why the Ohio River is called the Ohio River and not Pennsylvania River, or why it's named that way, please give me your fun factoid. But anyway, so we talk about the river. We do this silly little actions in our own scattered spots. The river is up, the channel is deep, the wind is steady and strong. Oh, won't we have a jolly good time as we go sailing along? Down the river, oh down the river, oh down the river we go. Down the river, oh down the river, oh down the Ohio. So when we do the down the river, they just pat the steady beat. On the other parts, we do these little silly actions. And then I say, you know, this time we're in our boat, we're going to go down the river, but we can't go by ourselves. We have to at least be in some sort of team on a boat. You always go with someone else. But our boat is not very big. It's actually sort of small. It's too big. It's too small for a quintet. And it's too small for a quartet. It's really, honestly, it'd be cramped if we had a trio. And as I'm saying this, I'm pointing to the wall to my big examples of what those things are, how many are in each thing. So really, this boat is really only big enough for a duet. We're going to need to be in a duet. So then we get into our duet, and we get to do some fun actions. It's actually a dance in a long way set. So we stand in a long way set, which is the two lines looking at each other. So I'm in one line, my partner's in the other line, and we're looking at each other. And the actions go in, 2, 3, 4, back, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, back, 2, 3, 4. And I have kids do that. And then I say, great, you do that while I sing. Go in, 2, 3, 4, and back, 2, 3, 4, and in, 2, 3, 4, and back, 2, 3, 4. Wow, can you do it while I do the actual words? The river is up, the channel is deep, the wind is steady and strong. So then it's just sort of scaffolding them into it and getting them into it in a way that they're more successful. And then I say, you know what? Actually, there's a special thing you get to do. When you go in, 2, 3, 4, and you meet your partner in the middle, you got to give them a clap. You got to pat their hands. So you're going to go, the river is up, the channel is deep, the wind is steady and strong. And actually I go, 1, 2, 3, pat, back to your spot. And 1, 2, 3, pat, back to your spot. And they get to try that. And then there's actually one more thing they get to do. But again, it's in steps. Once they master that, we have the next part. So the next part goes, the river is up, the channel is deep, the wind is steady and strong. Oh, won't we have a jolly good time as we go sailing along? And then they get to do the clap, clap at the end. That's super fun for them to add. So we do that a couple times. They get really good at that. And then we add down the river, oh, down the river, oh, down. And we just stay in our spots, patting the steady beat. So we run through and do all of that. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, and then pat, 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 pat. The last thing that you do is that the couple on the end, the magic two, I like to call them, because I don't use the word couple, because if I say couple, kids like freak out. So the magic two on the end, the head duet, they get to grab hands and like a boat, they're going to go down the river. They're going to go with the water down the river. They're going down the river, oh down. And they get to go in, down the set between the two lines. And once they get to the bottom, they'll split apart and go to each side. So I demo that with kids. And I grab the first person's hand and I go, down the river, oh down the river. We go down through the set. Down the river we go. Oh no. We're already at the bottom of the set and the song's not over. Come on, let's go try it again. We walk back up to the top. Let's try it again. Down the river, oh down the river, oh down the river we go. Oh no, we made it back here already. We're already here. It's too fast. Let's try it again. So we walk back. Down the river, oh down the river, oh down the river we go. We're here again. But the song's not over. It still goes down the river, down the river, down the Ohio. You know what? I guess it's just the river's too fast and the wind is too strong. We're going to have to do two different boats because otherwise, I mean, we're already here. So when we go down the river, oh down the river, oh down the river we go, we get to go. And then the next two go on down the river, oh down the river, oh down the Ohio. That's the way that seems to work the best for me to try and figure out that both the duets at the top get to go on that section. I tried explaining it in other ways, but like doing it 3 times through and be like, oh no, how do we get here? Oh my gosh, how do we get here so fast? The kids think that's funny and then they're like, I'm in for this. And it works. And then we do the whole thing together. If I'm lucky, I don't have to have a partner because there'll be an even number of kids and I can just stand back and play the song and correct things. If I need to dance with kids, I can still usually do that while playing my ukulele. It's a super simple song. And I play it, I think, in F, which is really actually not too difficult to do. And play along and sing and do rudimentary actions if I need to. But it's a super fun song. I linked a blog post from Beth's Notes Plus in my links page in case you want to learn more or want to see a few more extras about that song. And then if we have time, in my lesson, we run through and we go back to the note neighborhood. In the last lesson, they learned quarter note, eighth note, and quarter rest. And what we do in this lesson is, well, quarter rest, they come in. And what's really fun is they get to do 2 lines. Oh my gosh. And the best part is they get to do them where the note neighbors are hanging upside down. Oh my gosh. It's life-changing. And if we have the time, then they get to read the note neighbors who are right side up or upside down. And it's a super, super fun time. Okay, y'all, I'm out of time. I need to let Instagram go. They're going to time me out. But it's been so nice for you to hang out with me. I hope I'll see you again next week for another Musical Mondays night. If you have questions or comments and want to leave them, please leave them on the thread here, or you can join my Facebook group, Every Moment Matters Music Education Community. All right, thanks so much, everyone. Have a really wonderful night. Thanks so much, Facebook. I hope you had a great time. I had a great time. I hope I'll see you next week or on October 19th at the Tidewater Orff chapter at Old Dominion University in Virginia. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. Bye.